All right, everyone. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to our 18th episode, I think, today. It's crazy. Today we're talking about lenses. And I feel like lenses are a huge part of motion picture generally, mainly because they are connected to the way we see things and our eyes and nature and observing the world around us and, absorbing our surrounding. And so I feel like, it's such a huge topic, and I don't think we can cover it in one episode, obviously. But to the best of our ability, we're going to talk about consumer lenses today, and we're going to try to share our experiences because that's what we can do, actually. And perhaps it would be of benefit to someone who's listening about our experiences, obviously, with like shooting with them photos and shooting shorts. And actually, I'm gonna be honest right here. Like, my knowledge when it comes to lenses is very limited. But yeah, like I said, we can share our experiences and discuss and talk. And yeah, that's the point. And I think so. Lenses to me are very interesting because I've only used two brands, right? And I've watched a lot of reviews about the other brands like Sigma and G Master and Tamron, right? And I've watched a lot of reviews about them, and I actually want to share also like what I've noticed throughout using my the lenses that I have, which are I have the Samyang or Rokinon 35 f2.8, and as well as the Sony, right, 50mm 1.8, right. And I think I've also used the Canon lenses here and there, right? Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of differences between both. But Kai, also, like, would you like to share like what kind of lenses do you have and what have you used in the past?
Me and Ibrahim, we were talking about our lack of experience with the lens earlier, and to be honest, I haven't used a lot of that much lens compared to other people, because I'm actually like I was telling him that I promote the idea of only using one lens. One of the main reasons is because we don't have that much money to buy too much lens. But we're going to talk about why. Like, I actually want to bring up the idea of using only one
for
lens,
sure, bro.
We'll talk about it later. But
later.
To answer your question, I've used mostly, I started with Canon. So most of the lens that I used at the beginning was Canon. And later on, when I started to buy my own lens, I bought Sigma, because Sigma, they make a really good lens that work with Sony cameras. Yeah. And also, I've tried a couple of weird lens before, like there's this one from Laowa. I think it's called a probe lens, the really long one.
Okay. I know about it. Yeah.
You know that one?
They use it for product photos usually, and
macro photography.
Macro, like getting in between things and objects.
Yeah, like I play with a couple of weird lens that's meant for like shooting video commercial and stuff. But that's it. But we could talk about it. Yeah. So you want to start?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to start actually with the Samyang, and I feel like the things that I have observed about my Samyang lens come across the brand, right? Like come across a lot of the Samyang lenses, right? Like Samyang comes at a Samyang or Rokinon, actually. So I think Samyang is the actual name stamped on the barrel, and Rokinon is the reseller. It's kind of the same brand, but just different names depending on where you are. Actually, if you're in the US or outside, the name might be different. But when we talk about Samyang, it's usually the same. It's Rokinon.
But right? What's written on the lens though?
So my lens is written on it Samyang, but I think the other lenses are written on it Rokinon.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it depends on where the lens comes from, right? But anyways, so what I've actually noticed from using the Samyang, so the Samyang lenses are very, very, very good for the price, right? Like they're kind of like budget lenses, and they come at a very cheap prices and compared to other lenses, and they're usually sharp, right? They're usually sharp and they're usually quick, right? Obviously that differs from lens to lens. But I think generally speaking, like there's a general trend. The Samyang lenses are very sharp and quick, right? Especially my lens. But the only problem that they have is OSS, which is image stabilization, right? They don't have image stabilization, and so I feel like Samyang lenses are very good for photography, right?
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, if you're a photographer, you really don't care about image stabilization, and all you want to do is produce sharp image, and at the same time take photos really quickly, and you want your photos to be sharp relatively. And yeah, I think they are really good for that purpose. And I've used I have this pancake lens, and I've used it over the past 2 years, and it's been freaking amazing, man. It's really quick. It's like I said, it's sharp, and it just
right?
does the job. Yeah, just for photos. Yeah, and I've also used it for video, and it's really good. But my footage would come out jittery and shaky, right, because of the image stabilization, right? And it's exactly opposite to my Canon 50mm 1.8, right? Which is the Sony. The Sony lens, the Canon, bro, I hate it so much. I know it's like a 1.8 and it gives you this bokeh, but at this point, I just want to get rid of it because it's really slow, it takes a lot of...
Really?
Yes, bro, it's really slow. It takes a lot of time to focus, and at the same time, the footage, it's not sharp. It's not that sharp. I don't really care about sharpness.
It does have OSS though, right?
I don't think so. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
What? Just 51.8?
The 50mm. Yeah, maybe it has, but I don't think it does.
I do think it has OSS. Because I think Sony lens, all of them has OSS.
All of them have.
I think so. Even the cheapest, I literally have one right here in my hand. This is a really bad one. It's a 55 210. This one has super cheapest. It has OSS also.
Maybe it does. Maybe I haven't been paying attention.
No. You're right. I think yours doesn't. It's a full frame one, right? It's for full frame.
Yeah.
Oh, then it might not have it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but basically that's the difference between both. So, to be honest, to me, all I care about is speed and what's it called? Autofocus. If the autofocus is really fast and it does really well, it doesn't have autofocus breathing, and it doesn't have a lot of trouble with the autofocus, then that's really good, especially for photography, because I just want to get the shot very quickly, and I don't want to, especially when I'm in the streets or I see something really interesting and I want to capture it. I don't want to waste time trying to get the settings right or get the focus right, and that's what the 50mm misses out on, So yeah, I don't know. That's for full frame, obviously. The 50mm for full frame. I don't know what's your experience using also, Kai, the cropped for the APS-C sensor, the lenses that you have.
So the one that I use is Sigma, and Sigma actually released a couple of really good lenses that are made specifically for APS-C sensor. That's why it's extra cheap. So the one that I'm currently using is a 30mm 1.4 DCDN. And the thing is, one thing that you mentioned earlier, I found it very interesting because I've thought about it. For me, a good lens for personal use, okay, not for work, for personal use.
Yeah.
What makes it good for me as a user is when it's very frictionless. It's like if the image quality is good enough, pretty sharp, clean, fine, and autofocus is good, then I don't think much about it, because for personal use you might not necessarily demand that much. So the Sigma lens, the autofocus is so good. I'd say is as fast as the lens made by Sony themselves.
Yes.
So I rated really high for they have the one that I use. They have a 30mm and the 60mm, and I'm already actually planning buying the 60mm because the 30mm was so good. And they was it?
No, I was gonna say that actually that's what I've heard from a lot of people who have used Sigma lenses, and that's what I've watched also on YouTube, that the people that actually everybody loves the Sigma lenses, and it's because they're sharp, they're quick, they just do the job, they're frictionless, like you said, they're quality lenses actually.
Exactly.
The only problem I have with the Sigma lenses is that they're big, especially for full frame cameras, right? Because a lot of the lenses that I've watched, like the 35mm 1.4 or 50mm 1.4, like they're quite big, bro. They're quite bulky, you know, and compared to the other brands like the Rockinon or the Zeiss usually.
I don't know about the full frame though, but how's the price for the ones that you look for?
So the price is, I think it's average. So it's between like these budget lenses like the Rockinon and between the Zeiss. They're not quite expensive and they're not quite cheap, you know? So it's kind of like mid-range. But everybody likes them in comparison to the price because they give like the quality they give is quite good.
And even the lens, the build of it is really solid. You know, you don't feel it. Like everything is made of metal, and it's just you feel the price in it. Like mine is so cheap. Mine was like it's like $200 something, I think, $200 to $300.
Yeah,
and I've been using it for a couple of years, literally zero problem. Like I would continue to use it until maybe I switch camera. But mine was APS-C, and honestly, another, like I sold my Sony lens. I had Sony lens before, and those were like the cheap end one. And the other one I just mentioned, I just showed it to you earlier, this 55 to 210. I don't even use it that often because, to be honest, the image quality is very mushy.
Trash.
Like, I wouldn't say trash. But
it's not that
really
great.
cheap. Yeah, it's not that great. It's really cheap. Some of the photo that I uploaded on Instagram actually is shot with this one, but that's with pretty heavy editing. You know, when you zoom into 200, is. But obviously, what can you expect from lens that costs only $200? You know, it's like but so some other lens that I use, because usually when I'm doing like personal use, I always use the lens that I'm using right now.
Which is the 35 1.4, right?
30 1.4.
31.4.
Yeah. For works that I'm like commercial works and other stuff, I always rent lens. So I rarely buy lens for my personal use. I just continue to use this one. And actually, I wanted to bring up the fact that I've used this lens to shoot very big budget projects before.
Okay.
Projects that cost like millions of dollars. But it's not for the whole project, but it's like for certain scenes.
Yeah.
I've used this one to shoot. I use 4K, and I use this lens to shoot a whole bunch of like B-rolls and stuff that mix up with Blackmagic camera footage. And the clients doesn't know. They didn't know. Like I just happened to have it, so I shot some footage, and then it just happened to end up in the cut for the end end result. So this lens is really not bad. But I did use a couple of Canon. Also I used the G series lens. I don't know if you have you ever used the G Master lens?
I haven't
before?
But I know that they're really good quality lenses, you know. Them and the Zeiss are like kind of the Lamborghinis of lenses. Like the kind of like the really
so
high
expensive though.
Yes,
it's really expensive.
Insanely,
like
bro.
If you want to
like
buy
2K,
it for yourself,
3K,
man, easily 2-3K. But the image quality is really, really good. And man, there's nothing to talk. Like, there's not much to complain about when it comes to autofocus and image quality. Obviously, with the price, the image quality is really good. But a lot of them are pretty bulky as well. Like,
definitely,
From what I remember,
that's what Zeiss really does well, actually.
The image quality.
Yeah. And that's what Zeiss really does very well. Is that they kind of have amazing quality, you know, like they're kind of close to perfect lenses, and at the same time their size is very much maintained. Like you don't find a lot of bulky Zeiss lenses. Like I haven't seen, to be honest, you know. Most of their lenses, usually obviously for consumer cameras and mostly for Sony, because I come from a Sony background. And I think they're usually not bulky, and they kind of manage that very well. Unlike other lenses like the G Master or the Sigma, where they have very good quality, but the lenses are bulky. You know, no, the Zeiss are usually small lenses.
Like the diameter of the lens is very, very big.
Yes.
You know, not only it's like long, but it's like the diameter of the lens is very big. It's like it's like a lot of these Canon lens that I used, because I've rented the Canon R5 to shoot a couple of projects before, and then they have this RF lens, right?
Yeah.
RF lens is like insanely big. It's so big, like it doesn't. You cannot, because I do a lot of these run and gun projects, and it's not really easy to use these lenses. Like as you said, the first Zeiss lens I use is it's like a 24-105, 24-75.
Yeah.
And it's just the diameter of the lens is just much smaller than the Sony lenses, but the image quality is really good. Like
pretty good. Yeah.
I cannot really tell the difference. And so like I don't know, like I think all of the image quality is good, but you know, some people might feel offended if you say like Sony lenses are bad or Canon lenses are bad. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying
obviously,
it really depends on what scenario you're in. You know, if you're taking photos, I think it's okay. But if you're shooting like these handheld footage and stuff by yourself, you know, especially if you're shooting like small projects with no help, you're gonna try to keep your lens as light as possible. So
for sure.
Yeah, like, but the image quality again, I keep saying the image quality is really good, no complaint, and I still rent them till this. Like, if I'm shooting anything that I need to use Sony camera, I still get the G Master. And with Blackmagic, which Ibrahim just bought a Blackmagic BMPC 6K, you're gonna need an EF lens, right?
Definitely.
And EF lens,
Canon lenses.
I always rent. Obviously, it's Canon lens. Yeah, there's no other choice. But the Canon lenses are really good also. So yeah.
Don't have much to talk about. Wanted to.
By the way,
I wanted
anything you want to talk about?
I wanna ask you about your best focal length, and perhaps we can jump into like we can jump into your theory about like using one lens, which I kind of agree with. Yeah, but I want to first hear about like your best, your most favorite focal length.
Okay, so this is weird because I'm using a APS-C sensor, and I'm using a 30 millimeter, which converts to like 50 something, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. So do you like it? Like, probably. Is it your favorite or?
So I would want to, I wouldn't say it's very versatile, because it's pretty tight. I still manage to shoot most of the things with it, but if I get to choose again, I might go for the 16 millimeter, which is 30. The real 30. I guess. If you convert it to full frame, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about like full frame equivalence. Yeah. So
like 30.
That's,
I guess 30 is the best.
That's actually very interesting, because it's also my favorite focal length range, right?
Oh,
so
really?
I started with a 35, right? And I was like, okay, like if I can only go narrower, a little bit narrower, and a little bit narrower, you know? And then I bought the 50, and then I started using the 50. And then I was like, gosh, man, this is really too narrow for me, you know? I really don't want the 50. And also like, the 35 to 50 is a very, very interesting range, because I feel like the 50 gives you more compression than the 35, right? When you get into the 50, you kind of start to get into the telephoto. No, the compression rate starts to really show up. You know, like kind of like the compression rate between the subject and the background. But when you're using the 30, you kind of still have that like kind of 3-dimension. And what I really hate about telephoto lenses is this kind of compression that they give. So you kind of feel like the image is 2D instead of 3D, right? And while with the 35 while using the 35 mil, the reason I really like it is because it gives you this 3-dimensional look, right? And it gives you more depth, at least in my opinion, right? Obviously, there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying anything wrong with using. There's nothing wrong with using telephoto lenses or anything, and they're used everywhere. But I just really like I personally really like the 35 mil, because it's kind of the sweet spot for me, because it's not too wide where you kind of get that this kind of what's it called? You know when the lines become like a little bit tilted. Distortion. Sorry, yeah, exactly. Distortion. They're not that it's not that distorted, and at the same time it's not that compressed. It's kind of like the sweet spot where it combines both. It comes between both, and it gives like, to me, I feel like it gives the most real look. You know, so if you get a 35 1.4, then you get the bokeh, and at the same time you get the you get the kind of like this 3-dimensional look, right? And with them you can get close-up shots, and at the same time you can go wide, right? So they kind of work for both, and that's what I really like about the. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think versatility is the word here. Yeah.
The thing is, I know a couple of street photography, they really like this compression thing that you said, you know, like the photos that they took, they like everything inside the image. I mean, like when the image is like extremely compressed, especially when you're taking street photography, then you would see like millions of things in one photo, and it looks like they're just right next to each other. As you said, the 3-dimensional thing is like taken off, right? So some people, they take photos next to airport, so you see like an airplane coming down, and then there's all the street lights, and then there's the people, and it just looks like everything is just mashed up together. And some people, they just like that, and that's just the style. But again, I personally agree with you. I would prefer to use a wider, relatively like wider angle lens, like a 30mm full frame equivalent. So the reason why, one of the reasons why I have this thought also is because if I take a 30 that is wide, I can still crop it. You know, if I really want to focus on specific thing, I can crop it in post-production as well. But when you're using like a 50 and you want to take something a bit wider, then you have to back up, and it just I don't know, it's just much effort doing that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely, man.
But I've been okay. So I'm gonna talk about why I use one lens a lot more. Okay, so I've been using this 30mm for a couple of years now already, and earlier I checked again. 30mm is equivalent to 45, I think. 45, yeah.
Okay.
30mm is equivalent to 45, and 16 is equivalent to like 24, I think. 24, yeah. Okay, so first reason is because I didn't have money to buy a lot of lens. Okay, so I just brag like as if it's something very, 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 very noble at the beginning, initially. But then I found out about the magic of using only one lens, is that everything become very intuitive. Is that the word? Intuitive? Yeah. Intuitive. Like, because I'm so used to the ratio, like the frame, like I know what the image is going to look like before I even put the camera in front of my face. So when I'm so used to it, it becomes like a reflex. Like I see something and I know that it's going to look good because I've used this lens, focal length, for so long. Then it becomes like a instant reflex. Like I don't even, because sometimes you need to see through the lens to see if the image look good, right? That's one of the reasons. Like I realized that I got much more good looking photos. Obviously this is relative, you know, subjective. Not everyone is like this, but for me, I do feel the difference. Like I feel like I already know how it's going to look like because I'm trained. Like I'm so used to the focal length. Okay. So that's like the first reason. Second reason is I don't like to switch lens that often. I like to use prime lens first of all. I like to use because I feel like prime lens image quality look clear, it's better, it's more beautiful. So I use prime lens, and I don't like to always switch lens, and I don't like to bring a lot of lens with me. I feel like when I want to do street photography, I just want to bring like a small bag with me and just the camera and the lens. I don't want anything.
You want to focus more on the experience.
Light. I don't feel like I'm a Exactly. I don't want to feel like a tourist with a huge backpack with 15 lens in my backpack, you know. And the thing is, when you have so much lens, it makes you think about, I wish I took this with the 16. That would have looked better. I don't want this kind of regret. I just want to feel like, okay, this is the image. I'm just gonna take it right now. I don't want to look at something that looks beautiful and I start to think about which focal length I should use.
Yeah, what kind of lens should I use?
Like I said, I want everything to be very intuitive. Yeah, I want everything to be very like frictionless. Oh, that's the thing. Take it. And if I need to back up, I just back up. If I go forward, I'll just go forward. But I don't want to make the lens, because people are really bad at making like choices and decision. We take time to think about these things. I don't want to spend time making choices when that beautiful sunlight or beautiful thing is going away from me. So I could just take it and when you're used to that focal length, you would know how to deal with the photo taking process. You wouldn't worry about the zoom. You would just back off. You just go in. So I think these are the reasons. I don't know what you think about these reasons. Do you agree with them?
No, I 100% agree. And I think that I always, something that I really believe in is like knowing your settings. I always say like know your settings so that you can because these things are tools, right? And you don't want the tools to stop you from getting the best the best shots that you can at that certain moment of time, right? And so when you know your settings, you know your focal length, and you know everything that about your tools, then you're much more focused on the experience in the moment than you're stuck trying to figure out what kind of lens should you pick in order to take that shot, right? And I feel like that is much more important than actually trying to fiddle in with the settings and fiddle in with lenses and what kind of lens do you need to use or should you use. And it just takes away the actual point, right? Like the point is for you to get the shot. And like fiddling around with a lot of lenses and a lot of tools, then that kind of like creates a friction between you and the experience that you want to capture. And I 100% agree with this. I think I mean, it's not necessarily like using one lens, but more like knowing your tools and knowing being familiar with what you're using and not allowing them to stop you from capturing the moment at the best way possible, right? And that's what I stand by.
I don't want to give too off the topic, but I feel like this is similar to my experience when I started taking film photography. Because when I was taking film, the thing is, the more connected you are to the subject that you're taking, I feel like the better the photo becomes. And the more you start to meddle the camera and stuff, the thing that is in between you and the subject, you just get more distracted. So
definitely.
And one of the reasons I loved taking film is because with film, you can't really do much. You cannot check the photo. You just have to take the photo and you don't even know if it's good. But what I love about it is I just focus more on the subject, because there have more things matters. Going on than the camera itself. And exactly. And if it's like lens, when you're taking digital, like instead of spending so much time finding the so-called correct focal length, why don't you just focus on the subject and see how much better can it be, right? So that's the thing that I feel like makes the photo look better.